This is BenQ latest display in their Mobiuz lineup, the EX3210U, and I'm going to unbox it. Let's go, this is ArtIsRight. Before we start, subscribe if you're new and hit on the bell icon so you'll be notified every time I upload cool new videos like this. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you haven't been following my channel before, you will know that this BenQ Mobiuz display is quite the departure from my normal videos that I do for BenQ displays in general. I predominantly focus on their Pro display lineup. I do extensive review testing, and I have created multiple guides and tutorials so you can get the most out of your BenQ Pro displays. If you're unfamiliar with BenQ Pro display lineup, there are currently two. One of them is the SW display line, which is created with the most demanding photographers, video professionals, and color grader in mind. That display lineup can show 99% Adobe RGB, and it has the ability to go in to do a true hardware calibration on a 16-bit 3D lookup table. It also comes with a shading hood and an amazing panel uniformity. In addition, there's also a hotkey puck that allows you to quickly change between different color modes, and you can also go in and customize the hotkey puck based on what you need as well. The other display lineup that BenQ has is their PD line. PD line is made for content creators, graphic designers for both print and web, CAD/CAM animators, and also anyone who wants to get really amazing colors out of their panel. It does not have the hardware calibration capability, but nonetheless, it is one of BenQ top panel, and that comprised the BenQ Pro display lineup. So you may wonder how come I have this BenQ Mobiuz gaming display lineup in my studio. Well, I'm going to answer some of those questions right now. Starting out with the fact that because this is a gaming display, the panel itself can refresh at 144 Hz. That is a pretty high refresh rate for this display, and considering that this is also 4K resolution, that is absolutely amazing. So I'm going to be testing this on a Macintosh system to see if there are any compatibility issues, if Mac can output 144 Hz to this 4K display, or is it just limited and it can't really do that. I'm also going to be linking this up to my PC laptop and play some games on them, because what I want to know is how much better the games are going to be when I'm playing at a display that is not at 60 Hz. Yes, I live a fairly sheltered life when it comes to display because I've always used these Pro display, and gaming have always been, I would probably say, like very down on the bottom of my list. Most of the time, I just really want accurate colors. The other thing that this display also has is BenQ speaker line built into the display itself, and it's part of their Trevolo line. So it's supposed to be really good. We're going to be testing it out. Especially if you're gaming, this display also has HDR 600. That means that the display can go brighter than other ones, and it still has to scale, but it's going to be really awesome for that. It has 98% DCI-P3 coverage, and amazingly enough, this panel is also one that has a coverage for Adobe RGB as well. So we're going to be testing it out. I think at the end of the day though, if you want to get the best color possible from your panel and the work that you do, I would probably stick with the SW line with the true hardware calibration. But if you want to get a secondary display, an additional display to use that can also be used for gaming, I think this is a compelling display to look at. So let's unbox this and see what's on the inside. So pretty much like all the other BenQ displays, you get this nice layout. It doesn't have the individual calibration report, obviously, because this is not the Pro display lineup. It comes with a cable that you're going to need out of the box, HDMI. It has a DisplayPort to full DisplayPort, which is also great. So if you're not a Mac user, for instance, if you're a PC user, DisplayPort to DisplayPort is going to be really handy. A USB uplink cable. This is a USB Type A to USB Type B 3.0, and a power cable. In addition, it also has a power brick. So what this is telling me that's different than BenQ SW lines, that the power brick's on the outside. The one thing I really like about the SW line in general, and also BenQ Pro display lineup, is that you don't have this on the outside. So that's one of the comparisons that I noticed right away. This one does have a remote, whereas on the BenQ Pro display lineup, it does not have remote. So this is allowing you to control different functions of the display, enable HDR mode, and other things. It has, let's see what else. So this is the stand itself. We're going to open this up. Yep, this is part of the vertical arm, and this outer shell is all white, which I think I'm really going to love. So we're going to get to assembling this in just a moment. Here is the base, which looks like a boomerang. The design and the language of this entire Mobiuz lineup is very different. You have this kind of like carbon fiber red inlay thing. It's really neat. Obviously, this is not really designed for pro workflow, because if you're really a pro, you want generally, you know, colors that are subdued and not white and not anything that is distracting. And this, well, it can be a little bit distracting because you're really seeing red, you're seeing different colors all the time. That's going to influence the way how you are going to perceive color. And lastly, this is, let's see what this is. The cover for the back of the display panel itself, where all the cables goes in. All right, let's peel the onion layer and go down to the panel itself. Here it is, the Mobiuz EX3210U. It is huge, but I have unboxed 32-inch display before, and all of them are really huge. So anyway, we're gonna pull this out. And what I'm simply gonna do is probably line this up on the table, and we'll slide this back on the side. Okay, so let's start the display assembly. Starting out with the stand, we're gonna line this up. Like so, it just goes in really nice, just slide in just like that. You can see it from a different angle, there we go. We're just gonna screw the bottom in. Generally, I find if you just hand tighten these, they should be pretty good. So now we have that. It has a pretty wide stance, which is fairly neat. And what we're gonna do now is take the display out of its protective cover. This is a really big panel. All right. Let's hang this on the display. And the way how you put BenQ displays together, all of the Pro line displays are pretty much in a similar fashion. And I'll show you this from the back so that you can see. Is that there are pretty much just like these clips. And you would simply just hang it in like so, snap it in, and now this is assembled. The display itself is also compatible with VESA mount, so if you want to do wall mount on these displays, you can certainly do that. You just won't use the stand that comes with the display. All right. So here it is, BenQ EX3210U. We're gonna quickly plug this into my Macintosh, and then I'll do some quick tests and give you my initial impression. And we're gonna kind of just plug everything in together. So one thing that I also want to point out is that for this display, on the back of it, you have this cover that will pretty much cover all the cables and the ports and everything. So once you have that in, you would just cover this up so that the ports are not exposed on the back. But I mean, if this is really just facing the wall, I wouldn't be too concerned about just having this exposed. All right, let's assemble this, and I'll be back in just a second. Setting up this BenQ Mobiuz display and linking it up to my 16-inch M1 Max MacBook Pro, I came up with a few thoughts and observations. The first thing is that I'm always going to be looking at this display lineup from the Pro Display filter. And I'm doing this to educate and inform so that you can make the best decision possible about what display you want to add to your workflow. What it really comes down to at the end of the day, if you're looking at BenQ Pro display lineup, you're going to get more accurate colors from those displays. You're going to get, for instance, the capability to have USB Type-C connection with power delivery. Specifically for this model, there's no USB Type-C with power delivery, so you have to go back to one of the legacy ports. And if you have a Mac, well, you can use HDMI, but the problem with using the HDMI and even the cable that is included with BenQ is that you don't get the high refresh rate. However, you can get the high refresh rate on this display, and what you have to do is use a DisplayPort cable. So what I have is an inline cable that does the adaptation inline itself, so you don't have to use a dongle or adapter. It's a USB Type-C to DisplayPort cable. I'm using that linking up to my MacBook Pro right now, and I can get the refresh rate of 144 Hertz. In fact, on these M1 processors, what you can even do is go in and choose a variable refresh rate. So you can go between 48 to 144, and you can have the display refresh at different rate depending on what is needed at that given time. I think that is really cool, the fact that you can go in and do that. It's really awesome. The other observation from this too is that this display ships with a high-speed Ultra Certified HDMI cable, obviously because the standard is 2.1, but Mac, because this is still HDMI 2.0 built into it, you're not going to get that much advantage from it. But if you go with a DisplayPort cable, you're going to be able to take full advantage of this display. I'll be doing more testing and reviewing and calibrating this display, so stay tuned to the channel for that. If there is something that you really want me to specifically go in and test, leave them in the comments section below, or any questions down there as well. Give this video a like, subscribe, and hit on the bell if you're new. And remember, in art we trust.